So today I decided to make this video on the sacredness of Sexyy Red. Now, I know some of y'all gonna scrunch up your face and clutch your pearls because how could someone like Sexyy Red, who is vulgar and obscene and ghetto and classless and all of the things that y'all project on her, be someone who is a representation of divinity? So I'm gonna show y'all today. So this is a sculpture of the goddess Baubo, which in Greek is pronounced Vavo. What does Vavo sound like? Sounds like this word. In Greek mythology, Baubo is known for cheering up the goddess Demeter, who was frantically searching for her daughter Persephone, who had been snatched into the underworld with Hades. She couldn't find her. She was in despair. She was crashing out. And so she just did a wall slid and was like, Lord, where's my child? So as the story goes, Baubo, or in some hymns, she's referred to as Lambe, she decides that she wants to cheer the goddess up. And so she's just dancing around and telling jokes. And she was like, woo! And lifted her skirt, showed all her goodies. Now, this was just so shocking to Demeter that it just made her laugh, and it lifted her spirits, and all of the jokes and the playfulness of Baubo just helped Demeter cheer up and continue her search for Persephone. Now, as many of you may know, a lot of Greek mythology is actually based on Egyptian mythology. So in Egyptian mythology, we have Hathor, who is a goddess of the sky. She is a consort to the sky god Horus and the sun god Ra, and she's associated with love and fertility and abundance and joy and all of those beautiful things. But she is also a protector of the gods, and she is their eye. And she is also a consort, which means what? A baby mama. She got a lot of children with many deities. And so she is essentially the mother of mothers. So in her mythology, there's a story where Ra is, in a dispute with another god, and he gets so upset that the drama, just lays down and is just in protest. He ain't moving, he ain't doing nothing. And so Hathor approaches him and lifts up her skirt, and she keeps her skirt lifted until he notices and bursts out laughing. And after doing so, he felt better, went and resolved the dispute and avoided a catastrophe. Now, in the Palawan archipelago, which is a small island country in Micronesia in the Pacific, it is common amongst the communities there to create these carvings called the dilikai. So the dilikai is a carving that is created to be put above the homes of the chiefs. And so this carving is used as essentially like a amulet. And so the amulet serves as protection as well as a way to call in abundance. I bet you want the goodies. I bet you thought about it. I think that's pretty much what they said. So exposing the goods is pretty much saying we got it good over here, and also don't try us. Now, throughout Europe, especially France, there is a common folktale about a woman who scared away the devil by lifting up her skirt. And this is not the only time, especially in human history, that women exposing themselves is a form of protection. There are a lot of different protection amulets in a very similar style from around the world. And it's especially common in ancient Europe, Mesopotamia. The Sheela-na-gig is especially popular in Irish culture, and then even as they were colonized by the British, they really fought to maintain and protect this image because it was commonly used as an amulet to ward off evil. But of course, it was considered pagan, and as more Irish assimilated into Christianity, they were pressured to remove the statues from their homes and churches. So these themes can be seen around the world, as you can see in the image behind me, many sculptures depicting versions of the Baubo. Throughout all the continents, there are stories of women lifting their skirts in protest and doing so literally ending wars. Women lifting up their skirts to scare off the enemies, as well as not just as a boogeyman or to lift up their skirts in that way, but as a form of humor to essentially laugh in the face of their enemies. So, with everything we're talking about, it gives additional context to Lil Kim's famous pose. And so we see many of the rap girlies continue to be inspired by this pose. It's essentially a power stance and laughing in the face of patriarchy and sexism, and it is power. What makes what Sexyy Red does even more divine is not just the self-exposure through the pose that we see in all of the ancient sculptures, but it is her particular use of humor and vulgarity. And if we see the response that many have to how Sexyy Red presents herself, she definitely stirs the pot. The way Sexyy Red presents her sexuality isn't in a way that centers men, even though she talks about men in her songs. Is not her sexuality and her expression of it and how vulgar she is doesn't have to do with making men feel comfortable about her sexual expression. She is very brazen. She is going to be profane, and so she is not trying to be alluring and seductive as much as she is just very much herself. And as I was talking to a friend about this, we found it amusing that Sexyy Red constantly says bow, bow, bow in all her songs. And so, it really just shows how interconnected our world is, how time is, how all of these existences are. And whether Sexyy Red knows it or not, she is using a chant that really calls down the spirit of this energy and honors this particular deity. And for my girls all into the divine feminine, please understand that there are so many expressions of divinity, and one is not necessarily more valid than the other. And it is this version of femininity that is brazen, that is in your face, that is unapologetic, that has been protecting people for centuries. And so what Sexyy Red does and what the energy that she's exemplifying and channeling, whether she is aware of it or not, or even cares about it, is something so much more potent than even she realizes. And it is protective, and it is in a way a symbol of blessing in itself. And so you see that she continues to live her own version of a blessed life, being herself. So if you've been struggling with these different ideas and respectability and understanding how to sit in your own divinity, where you start is honoring the divinity in us all.